John O'Keefe was raising 2 children he adopted after his sister and her husband tragically died within 2 months of one another. He was also a Boston police officer. John was dating Karen Reed for a couple of years when tragedy struck. It was January 28th, 2022, and John went bar hopping with Karen in downtown Canton, Massachusetts. First, they went to C.F. McCarthy's, then the Waterfall Bar and Grill across the street. Also at the Waterfall was Colin Albert and some friends. When the Waterfall closed, Brian invited everyone to his house for an after party. When they started to arrive at the Alberts, there was a group of younger adults who were there celebrating Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday. John O'Keefe was found dead on the front lawn of that home the following morning. Prosecutors say Karen Reed ran him over after a heated argument fueled by jealousy. Karen says she's innocent. So who does she and her attorneys believe is responsible? From the cross-examination in court, it seems like they're pointing the finger at Brian Albert's nephew, Colin Albert, who was a high school senior at the time. Tonight, we take a look at the cross-examination of Colin Albert. What has it revealed? What does it prove? We'll bring in our trial insiders as we continue our investigation into the tragic death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And again, another big day inside the courtroom in Dedham, Massachusetts. The trial of Karen Reed. Things are heating up in there. Things are getting very real. And we are really, despite the fact that we're in the prosecution's case, we are in the heart of the defense case right now as well through their cross-examination of some of these witnesses. Now, John O'Keefe died in the cold. That's a fact. He was on the front lawn. Someone placed him there, or he was struck by a car, but he ended up on the front lawn of the Alberts home, and he died as that storm came rolling in the overnight hours, the blizzard that everyone was preparing for. So the real question is, how does he end up there? And there are 2 competing theories in this case, in this trial for this jury, which makes this trial a little different. A lot of times we're at trial and there's, the prosecution theory, and then there's the defense just doing the old, let's poke some holes in it. Let's poke some holes in it. And we know how those trials end. We know how they end. You haven't poked enough holes. Sometimes the defense does have a story. Sometimes it's self-defense. We've seen those cases, and they can be successful if the jury finds the accused credible. Self-defense, they take the stand. But this one, there's 2 completely different theories on what happened and who's responsible and what exactly caused the death of John O'Keefe and how he ended up on that front lawn. So, first one is John's girlfriend did it, Karen Reed. She's the one. She's the one responsible. The relationship had soured. That's what we've heard from the prosecutor. Things weren't great. We haven't heard all their evidence yet along those lines, but we expect to hear some messages that Karen Reed left for John O'Keefe. There was some jealousy. There were some flirtations with others. You know, all of that, they're saying, rolled into one, and then something happened inside her SUV on the ride from the Waterfall to the Alberts home, and that was it. That was the motive. That was why she put that car in reverse, going 24 miles an hour, over 60 feet, and knocked him down, ran over him, left him on the yard to die in the snow, and cracked the taillight while all that was happening. The other theory is that a high school senior did it, Colin Albert, who is related to the Alberts in the home, but he's not their son. He's their nephew. His parents weren't there. His parents were at the bar, but they didn't go to the after party. So this is the guy, because it became extremely clear today, despite the fact that the defense hasn't been able to specifically lay that out for the jury. Everyone got it today. We got it. You're pointing the finger over here at this guy. Where we go? Like this. There you go. They're pointing the finger at him. Period. End of story. That's what we learned today inside the courtroom. So let's bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. Join us live from outside the courthouse in Dedham, Massachusetts tonight. Matt, great to see you. It was a day of clarity for me for what this defense is all about. So, you know, the defense case, I said, we're sort of in the heart of it because they're building it through cross-examination. And today was the cross-examination of Colin Albert, the one who was a high school senior when all this happened. Tell me about it.
Vinny, nice to see you. And there were fireworks inside that courtroom today. I was in court watching all of the jurors who were paying close attention today. You could hear a pin drop when Colin Albert was called to the stand for cross today, and it was fiery. These defense attorneys suggest that he was not properly investigated, call him an alternate suspect. And today he was questioned about pictures that they found on social media through a neighborhood restaurant that show injuries to one of his hands. Here's what he said about that.
How'd you get those injuries, Mr. Albert? We can pull lights up.
I was at a party, my house party my senior year, and I remember it being icy out, and it was kind of like a steep hill of a driveway, and I was walking up the driveway and I slipped down the driveway and I tried to catch myself, but I had something in my left hand, so I had tried to brace myself with my right hand, and I ended up sliding a little bit down the driveway.
What'd you have in your left hand?
If I remember, it was either my phone or a beverage.
Also on cross, he was asked about some videos that he had posted in his either sophomore, junior, or senior year. He couldn't quite remember, but they were videos that are threats towards people he didn't know, people in town as part of a local hockey team that he said he was sparring with. Take a listen.
And these threats that we've just talked about, that we've just seen, these are threats of physical violence, right?
Correct.
You're not threatening to hurt their feelings or send them a mean text, right?
No.
You're threatening to kick their ass, right?
Correct.
To get physical, right?
Yes.
To ball up your fists and beat the out of them.
Objection.
Can you answer that? Will you answer that, please?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Probably shouldn't. You were threatening to ball up your fist and beat the heck out of them.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you were threatening to do?
Yes.
Really interesting to watch the jurors in that tiny courtroom during this sparring, this very contentious cross-examination by Alan Jackson there. A lot of the jurors were taking deep breaths afterwards. I noticed at least one juror in the front row. He was looking back at his notes that are probably from yesterday or 2 days ago.
This is crucial for the defense. It's crucial for the prosecution, right? They have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. But for the defense, they're starting to make their case, or attempting to make their case that someone else is responsible. And you show a picture of a young man with those marks on his knuckle. You're obviously pointing the finger at him as being at least one of the people that was beating up John O'Keefe that night. Wow. So that's a huge part of today. But there was another witness. There was another McCabe who testified. Not Jennifer McCabe, though. Not yet. It was Matt McCabe.
Right, Matt McCabe is another key witness for this Commonwealth for the prosecution, because not only was he over at the waterfall, this is him leaving with his wife there, this is the Alberts rather, leaving with Colin, but he was at the waterfall bar with Karen and John O'Keefe, and then he went to the after party at 34 Fairview Road. And that's really key because he was noticing his wife talking to John O'Keefe, and also he looked out the window, and this is what he saw.
The SUV had moved up the road from the front of the house. It went from spot A to spot B. Now is further up, more in sync of where the again, the flagpole, the utility box, more in sync with that. It had moved up the road. Thought it was weird that they hadn't come in. Just looking out, being like, what the hell are they doing? And going back to my seat. I must have looked out one more time because there was no vehicle there anymore. My wife was trying to communicate with John, let him know that he's here. So.
I want to let that stand.
And at any point, do you know whether or not Mr. O'Keefe communicated back to Ms. McCabe while they were out front of the house? Objection.
Do you know? Not how you know, do you know?
Do I know if Mr. O'Keefe communicated back to Jen? Is that the question?
That's my question.
No.
So he's going to be back on the stand tomorrow. Remember, he was also the driver that night with several people, including Nagel, that says that she saw the blob out in front of the house. And then also, as I just mentioned, his wife left the courthouse here with him today. So one can only imagine that she's going to be the next one or two witnesses on the stand.
Yeah, we're working our way through everyone that was at that house. And again, I'm still sitting here amazed how many people were in and out of that house, how many people showed up to pick people up, how many people showed up to drop people off, yet talking about the actual striking of John O'Keefe, either by a human being in the house or by the car outside the house, no one is testifying about seeing any of that. So let's get now to, again, the third-party defense was a big issue before the opening statements, and we heard more about that today.
Yeah, so we heard about that today, and it was a big moment in court. So the jury, this was out of their presence, and this is when the defense team also asked for the witness, Colin Albert, to leave the room. He was out of earshot, and they were talking about him being an alternate suspect and why they were arguing that they should be able to admit their third-party defense. Here was part of that.
The Massachusetts State Police should have, if they were doing their due diligence, they should have investigated this young man. They should have investigated every single person that was in that house, in or around the home of where John O'Keefe was found, the Albert home, and they didn't. They did nothing to investigate whether or not there was someone in the house who tended to fight, who wanted to get in physical altercations, who had a propensity to get in physical altercations, who was a fighter by nature, who threatened to fight, who threatened violence. That's what this young man has indicated he does constantly. I'm surprised he didn't show up in this hearing with busted knuckles.
So does this go to your third-party culprit defense?
It goes to both. It certainly goes to Bowden, but yes, it also goes to our third-party culprit defense as well. This is a focus of, I believe, this should be a focus of the jurors' attention in terms of, is there a third party who could have done this, that evidence points to, that may have done this? Absolutely. This evidence, what we now have, points directly in that it's focused in that direction. So yes, both it should have been investigated, and Colin Albert is somebody that the jurors should focus their opinion on or their attention on to determine whether or not he could have or was involved in the death of John O'Keefe.
So, Vinny, this argument was a win for the defense at the end of the day because they were arguing before the videos were played to the jury. The videos came in about him making those alleged threats towards people he didn't know here in town. And it's also very interesting because this is the first time we've heard the judge ask them about submitting something for the third-party defense, because remember, before opening statements, she said that she was not going to allow them to open on that, but she was going to allow evidence in and then make her determination before they begin their case.
Huge developments today, Matt. What a big, big day. Matt Johnson in the middle of it, inside the courtroom. Thank you so much for that reporting. We will speak again tomorrow night. Now, I want to take a closer look at that image on the knuckles of Colin Albert. What exactly can we glean from that? Let me bring in my special guest, board-certified forensic pathologist, Dr. Priya Banerjee. Dr. Banerjee, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I don't know how much you can tell us or what more you would need to know, but I wanted to get at least some sort of an opinion about these photos. So let's put them up. First, it's the wider shot. They're at a place called Fenway Johnny's. We're looking at the right hand here of Colin Albert. Now, I want to give you 2 dates, okay? This picture taken apparently on February 26th. What the defense is alleging, that it's the result of a beating, a fight, an ambush on January 28th, almost a month prior. Looking at that, how difficult is it to tell the age of a wound on someone's knuckles like this? And can you tell what do these images tell you? And I think we have a close-up shot as well that we can show you.
So obviously it's a circumstantial case, and that's all I'm going to say about the legal aspect of it. They're trying to make it seem like this kid had a likely altercation. Now, if you have almost a month between the incident and this photo, I think these are too fresh. A month, a normal kid would have healing, okay? A normal person. So although it shows like a pattern of behavior, and I think that's what they were getting at, I don't think you could say that these wounds specifically were from the incident of Mr. O'Keefe's death.
Let me ask you this now. So from your perspective, they're not fresh. What if you get an injury like that, and then after you get that injury, as it's healing, you maybe do some boxing, you're hitting the heavy bags. Could that aggravate it to the point where it might appear like this? I'm just trying to figure out if under any circumstance this could be related to something happening almost a month prior.
Absolutely. So part of like what I'm trained, like I know we recognize injury in different forms. Like MMA fighters repeatedly hit their shins to thicken the bone and almost make it like harden it so they can take impact. So if he is training repeatedly with impact to the back of the hand, potentially, even if it's healing and scabbing, they can be reopened. Absolutely. So if you're practicing and then practicing again a few days later, that's not enough time for the wound to completely resolve.
And obviously this is the only evidence they have, is this photo. The photo itself, what does it tell you anything definitively one way or the other? Could you tell how he got this injury? Does this look consistent with getting into a fight? Does it look consistent with falling and breaking your fall with your knuckles? Does it tell you anything?
Sure. So what we're seeing on the back of the knuckles are called abrasions, but that's the medical term. Let's just call them what they are. They're scrapes, okay? The skin is rubbed away. So he's hit his knuckles on something, or something's hit his knuckles. I don't know what's impacting what. Could it be boxing? Sure. Now, it's really inconsistent with falling on the snow or whatever story he made up.
How about the driveway? The driveway. You're walking up a steep driveway. It's a little slippery. You've got something in your left hand. You fall. You want to break the fall with your right hand. And apparently he broke it sort of with a fist.
Right. That's highly unusual. Now, let me just tell you, growing up, my parents' driveway was so steep, that's where we would all go sledding. So when it was a sheet of ice, I knew how slippery it was. I mean, just think about when you fall, people outstretch their hand, right? That's the normal response. And so even if he has something in his left hand, it's the right one that's affected. That's a really unusual mechanism to hit the pavement or the snow or ice, whatever, with the back of your hand. It's really an outstretched hand. People often fracture their wrist that way. That's an unusual mechanism. Could he have scraped it some other way in the ice or snow? Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, and the final question, we're almost out of time. I'm looking at it, and it looks like at least 3, possibly 4 knuckles are impacted. At least 3 are very obvious. Is that consistent with what you've seen through the years in cases where people got into fights?
Sure. So, I mean, if that's a punch mechanism, the knuckles are going to be really the weapon, if you will, right? That's the bony part that hits the object, the target. Sometimes people can even get like what they call a boxer's fracture if they're not trained. And that's more on the outer aspect of the hand, like the ring finger, pinky finger, that area, but it's further down into the hand from the impact, the force. But he's doing something with his hands that have like a blunt force effect, and they're scraping his knuckles away.
Dr. Priya Banerjee, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll speak again. All right, folks, when we come back, we'll bring in our trial insiders, take a look at some of this evidence. What does it mean? What are they seeing? Plus, coming up next hour.
They are known as the Doomsday Couple, Chad and Lori Daybell, leading a group of preppers preparing for the end times. But Lori and Chad are accused of much more than just leading a cult. They've been implicated in a string of murders. Lori was convicted of murdering her children, JJ and Tylee, and Chad's first wife, Tammy. She's also getting ready for her trial for the murder of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Meanwhile, Chad is currently on trial for the murder of Tammy, JJ, and Tylee. And today, the jury saw some potentially incriminating text messages. We'll take a look at them. Do they prove murder?
Lori Vallow is asking Chad Daybell if there is a, quote, perfectly orchestrated plan to take the children. Chad's response is that there is a plan being orchestrated for the children.
This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
It's a controversial case that's divided a community.
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
Prosecutors say she ran him over on purpose and left him to die in the cold.
But Reed claims that she's being framed.
It smells suspicious.
After years of legal fireworks, will the truth finally be revealed?
The end game is to figure out who killed John O'Keefe and hold these people responsible.
The Killer or Cover-Up Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
That's you in the middle?
Correct.
Okay. At what time of day was this taken?
Not sure.
Was it at an event of some sort or just you were at a bar?
Just at a bar.
Okay. I want you to take a look at your right hand. Can you see from there clearly your right hand?
Yes.
What do you notice about your right hand?
It's cut up.
Your knuckles are injured, correct?
Correct.
Now, you didn't take this photo, did you?
Nope.
That photo was never on your phone. In other words, it wasn't a friend of yours that took the photo, correct?
No.
This was taken by an event staff member, is that right?
Correct.
It was later posted on social media, isn't that right?
Correct.
You could not access the metadata, you couldn't access the time and date of that photo, correct?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
You couldn't manipulate the time or date this photo was taken?
No.
This photo was completely sort of out of your control, isn't that right?
Correct.
And it was controlled by the event staff at Fenway Johnny's.
Correct.
And on February 26th, less than a month after the incident at Fairview, that's what your right knuckles look like, correct?
Correct.
It is clear the defense is pointing the finger at the knuckles of Colin Albert, who was in high school at the time. Let me bring in my guests, my trial insiders. Joining us, Karen Reed supporter and expert Nick Rocco. Criminal defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr., who at one time did represent Colin Albert, does not represent him anymore. And the YouTuber behind Yellow Cottage Tales, Kevin Lenahan, is with us. Great to see everyone tonight. Nick, I'll begin with you. What does this photo tell you?
It tells me that Colin Albert was at a 21-plus club at 17 years old with cuts all over his knuckles. That was less than 4 weeks after this incident that happened to John O'Keefe. Now, there is a much clearer picture out there of his knuckles where you can actually see they're somewhat healed, but not really. There is no way that he slipped down a driveway on ice and that happened, just for the sole fact that when you fall, when anybody falls, they brace their fall. Your hands open up and you try to catch yourself. I've never heard of somebody putting their fist down on the ground and then sliding down the driveway and scraping their knuckles. Now, he could have came up with something a little better along the lines of, yeah, I was punching the punching bag, or even I punched a wall when I was a little upset. I don't believe the jury bought that at all, and that's not going to be good for him.
Joseph, what are your thoughts here?
Well, the defense right is all in on Colin now. There's no doubt about that. And we knew this was coming. It's been 1.5 years of the defense attorneys and Karen Reed herself collaborating with bloggers as part of a concerted effort as part of a smear campaign on an 18-year-old kid. Your own expert just said that those pictures demonstrate injuries that are too fresh for a 19 or 20-year-old kids to have taken place a month prior. She said that until you tried to talk her off of it and inserted facts that aren't in evidence. No evidence that he had ever hit a punching bag between January 28th and the time that picture was taken. You also admitted the fact that there was a picture taken in between that time that demonstrated absolutely no injury to his knuckles. And I will tell you, because I've seen them, there's not just one picture out there. There's several pictures out there from at least 2 different nights where Colin Albert has absolutely no visible injury on his knuckle. But again, he produces a picture with no injury, and the whole Karen Reed movement says it's doctored. It's like Groundhog Day. Every time a piece of evidence is produced, they say it was doctored, and every single day they add a new civilian witness to their conspiracy theory. I'm all about defense attorneys doing whatever they can within the ethical limits of the law to represent a client. I know Karen Reed's fighting for her life, but let's talk about that video. How absurd is that?
We're going to talk about the video in just a second. We're going to definitely talk about the video in a second. He's always one step ahead, Joseph Krasky Jr. All right, Kevin, you are expert. Right, Kevin.
Your own expert said those injuries.
I'm not trying the case. I bring in people I trust, and they tell me what they tell me. I don't tell anybody what to say on this show. You know that, Joseph. Kevin, you were referencing a photo before. I think we have the photo. Let's put that up. There it is. It's up on the screen right now. Tell me your thoughts about this photo that we're looking at and the photo from Fenway Johnny's.
And that photo there is from February 9th, 10 days after John died. So not only are his knuckles clean, but if he had been in a fight, his knuckles would show marks, and they don't there. Another thing is Colin said very effectively, repeatedly, that he's never been in a fight in his life. Now, this is a town where half the town is against these people now. And a good chunk of the rest that aren't are trying to insert themselves into the case because it's now such a big case. And nobody has come forward to say that they've seen him in a fight. Nobody's come forward with a video showing him bragging about being in a fight. He's never been in a fight. There's no evidence that he's ever been in a fight.
Let me take a look now at the videos that Joseph was referencing. Let's watch. These are 2 videos. They're pretty quick, but the defense brought them in today.
Beat all your asses. I promise you, I will pull on. Pull up, bitch. You're a bitch, bro.
All right, Joseph, on the stand, he admitted that he was threatening physical violence in these. What are your thoughts?
Well, he didn't really admit that. Let's remember why they first came in. He was asked if he had been in a fight before, and he said no. So as impeachment evidence, they were allowed in, I believe over objection, to show that that statement was demonstrably false, which it was not. He's never been in a fight. Turtle Boy's offering $100 for anyone that can produce a video. So far, 160 people have commented with not a single person able to show that he's been in a fight. Those were sophomoric, literally, his sophomore year in high school, sophomoric videos, pretend videos. They were almost spoofs. No fight resulted from those videos. I mean, it's absolutely silly. Bang, bang, as if he's gangster and has a gun. And somehow Alan Jackson argued that that shows a propensity for violence. You know, you can't make this stuff up.
Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, this is a kid being a kid. It's if we all had videos of the stuff that we did when we were 14 or 15 years old, and back then there were no smart cell phones, so you didn't have that level of documentation. But here's a kid who's drinking with his friends. He's an athlete. He's hanging around with jocks, and everybody wants to prove to their buddies how tough they are. Yet he's probably embarrassed now that he's never actually been in a fight, because he's that kind of kid that goes home and has to go up and tell his parents goodnight before he goes to bed. That's the kind of kid he actually is.
Nick.
I would have to disagree with that. I think this is him being a tough guy. As far as that picture you showed, it doesn't show the top of his knuckles like it does in the photo taken by the photographer that was never edited. It's very light, and you see the front of his hand. The picture of his knuckles all cut up is the top of his knuckles. So this picture doesn't really prove anything, and they wouldn't post a picture online that would show his knuckles, if in my opinion. But the photographer photo, they just posted it because that's what they do. They take pictures at a club and they post it. So as far as, saying, oh, look at this picture taken on February 11th, they wouldn't post a picture if it was going to hurt Colin in this situation. So as far as that goes, I don't believe that, this picture was either. I do believe maybe it was taken before, but you can't see the top of his knuckles.
All right, folks.
They wouldn't have posted that picture from the bar a week later if they thought that was going to put him in harm's way.
He didn't post it. The photographer did because they had no control over the photographer, Joe.
He wouldn't be out posing with injuries to his knuckles. Their own expert said the injuries are recent. You can't get around that.
All right, folks.
The knuckles that make contact.
There you go.
Here. That's the part.
All right, our insiders are staying with us. The defense today alleging that Colin Albert was being protected. Was he?
The ring bearer in Courtney Proctor's wedding, were you not?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Correct.
So when you say we're friendly, but not that, or we're close rather, but not that close, you were actually close enough to be a member of her wedding party when she was married to her now husband, correct?
When I was younger, correct.
Cross-examination was intense today, and that's because it appears the defense is pointing the finger at Colin Albert as the one who ambushed, attacked John O'Keefe inside the house. So Courtney Proctor, who is Courtney Proctor? Well, she is somehow related to the lead investigator in the case. Let's take a listen.
Who conducted that interview?
Michael Proctor and one of his partners, I believe. I don't remember.
Michael Proctor was the lead investigator that interviewed you, correct?
Correct.
That's the same Michael Proctor that appears on the far left of the photo of that wedding party, correct?
Correct.
He was at the wedding there with Michael Proctor, who is Courtney Proctor's brother. Let's bring back in our insiders, Nick Rocco, Joseph Krowski Jr., Kevin Lanahan. The allegation by the defense, Kevin, is that they are protecting Colin. And it really, I mean, the biggest protector, perhaps of all, according to the defense, might be the lead investigator, Michael Proctor.
Well, if the facts of the case were different, yeah, it would be a problem. There do seem to be some level of connection to the Proctor family. But as you saw today, Matt McCabe very credibly testified, as everybody has, that when he got there, he never saw Colin. Colin was gone. So Colin, this is why he wasn't mentioned originally to the Canton police, because he was gone so far before he was basically leaving as the homeowners were just getting home. So I think it's a mistake by the defense to push this Colin angle. They would have been more fruitful to go after Brian Higgins. And now that the jury has seen, this is pretty much debunked. I think the jury's going to lose. I think the defense has lost all credibility with the jury at this point.
Nick, do you think Proctor is protecting Colin Albert?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's not mentioned in any police reports. He's not interviewed until a year and a half later with a 10-minute interview by Michael Proctor. He recognized him right when he walked in the room, and that's when he should have walked out of the room and said, I can't interview him, someone else needs to. And not to mention the fact that Brian Albert said he saw Colin in the kitchen. Nicole Albert said that when she walked in the door, he was right in the hallway. And Colin Albert said that he bumped into them outside. So you have three different stories, Colin being in three different places at the same time. So who's lying? I'm pretty sure all of them are lying because the stories keep changing here. So, and just to point out Kevin's fact where he said Matt McCabe was credible. So the second time he looked at Karen Reed's vehicle was at the flagpole. The third time he looked at Karen Reed's vehicle, it was gone. That means he was looking directly at the flagpole, and he didn't see no blob on the lawn. So John wasn't on the lawn because he was inside the house. I mean, he said it.
Now, I want to put something up on the screen here for you, Joseph. Allie McCabe testified yesterday, and you have those text messages going back and forth with Colin Albert. 12:10 a.m., Allie, I'm here. 12:10 a.m., Colin, okay. Let's take a listen to some of her testimony about the screenshots that seem to put together a timeline for when Colin's ride arrived.
You didn't turn over that screenshot of a text message until sometime during the summer of 2023, correct?
Correct.
About a year and a half or more after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes, when I was asked.
And by that time, the summer of 2023, you had already switched phones, correct?
Yes, I believe.
In other words, the iPhone that you had on January 29th of 2022, you no longer had possession of that physical phone, correct?
Correct.
You had a new iPhone, correct?
Correct.
And you say that you transferred over the data from the old phone to the new phone, correct?
Correct.
When did you take that screenshot that was displayed to the jury today?
I don't remember.
Was it before or after you got rid of your old phone?
I don't remember.
Okay, Joseph, let me ask you, is Allie McCabe and Michael Proctor, are they protecting your former client, Colin Albert?
Absolutely not. We now have 7 different civilians in the house that are fairly consistent, as amazingly consistent given the passage of time and all the comings and goings from the house, that all have Colin Albert leaving that house around 12:10 to 12:15. You saw Matt McCabe today, the type of guy that's calling his daughter's high school hockey coach on the way out to the get-together to check in on her and her hockey. Do you think he's going to embroil his daughter in a murder cover-up, bring her to the scene, and have her drive Colin out of there after Colin allegedly assaulted someone? And do you think Matt McCabe, guy that's worked professionally for 15 years, never committed a crime in his life, is all of a sudden going to be involved in a cover-up? Colin Albert's not even related to him. Trooper Proctor, his sister is friends with Colin's mother. That's going to lead Trooper Proctor to start planting taillights at all over the place, including in front of Fairview Lane, and to plant.
Nick, there we go.
Karen Reed's car? Come on.
We missed a little bit of what you said, Joseph, but we got most of it. Nick, go ahead.
Well, Matt McCabe's involved in this cover-up because his wife Google searched "Hoss Long to Die in the Cold" at 2:27. But there is no way Colin Albert left that house at 12:10, and here's why. Julie Albert was already home before Chris. Chris got home at 12:20. They're saying it takes 8 minutes from 34 Fairview Road to get to Colin's house. So say he left at 12:10. That means he got home at 12:18 before Chris. But Chris testified that Colin wasn't home. Chris was in bed for 15 minutes before he fell asleep. So that puts us around 12:40. And at some point after that is when Colin came in to say goodnight to his mom and dad, apparently. So that puts us around 12:40, 12:45. So there is no way, even if he left at 12:15, there is no way Colin got home at the time he's saying. It just didn't happen.
Kevin, do you agree on the timeline?
It sounds like Nick has finally given up on Comagate, as he promised us last night. But
that's true.
Let's look at the scenario that Nick is portraying here, all right? And let's look at Matt McCabe's testimony. Here's a guy driving home to his 4 daughters. He's got his wife, and he's got 2 other young women that are taken home in the back of the car. And Nick in the defense wants us to think that they've left behind a man who is clinging to life inside the house, and that they already know the plan is to take this guy out and drop him off in the lawn to die in the cold. And he's going home as part of a murder cover-up to these 4 young girls that are his daughters. That's the scenario that the defense wants us to believe. It's not only absurd, it's insulting.
Joseph?
So you didn't say anything about Chris.
Sarah Levinson, a woman that went to nursing school, a woman that saves lives, that doesn't, I don't even think knows Colin Albert, is going to participate in a cover-up. McLaughlin, an EMT that was trying to save John's life, is going to participate in a cover-up. You know who didn't go in the house? Who was supposed to go in the house? Karen Reed, who was invited in the house by Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe and everyone. Karen Reed, the same person that kept stopping and starting her car, consistent with an argument taking place between her and John O'Keefe. The same person on national television that didn't rule out the fact that she might have hit John O'Keefe and incapacitated him.
Go ahead, Nick. I'll give you the last word tonight.
Well, Kevin, you didn't explain anything about the time Colin leaving because of Chris and Julie's testimony. And as far as what Joe had said, as Sarah Levinson, these people are scared of Brian Albert. It's clear as day. You have Colin Albert at the DA's office today, Tuesday and Wednesday. He testified that he hadn't talked to these people in over a month. Vinny, it's wild, man. It seems like me and you are the only ones that aren't on the Albert's payroll here. I mean, it's common sense at this point.
I'm not on anybody's payroll. I'm only after the truth, and you should try it out.
All right. We will leave it there for tonight. Nick Rocco, Joseph Krowski Jr., Kevin Lenahan, appreciate your passion, your insight. Joseph, you have something else?
Tie or no tie tomorrow? I didn't get the memo. You and Matt, no ties tonight.
Long story. Long story.